Joining us right now on the Daily Dose is one of our favorite guests that we have on the Dose because Russ McKinstry knows sports like other people wish they knew sports. He was a high school basketball coach for decades. He won state titles. He sent kids to play both collegiately and professionally. He's been a teacher. He's been a school administrator. And for all of the nonsense that I don't know on the show, Coach Mac brings some balance to the dose with his knowledge. Coach, welcome back to the Daily Dose. Always glad to have you with us.
Always a pleasure, Coach Daly. Hope you're doing well and excited to be on today with you and look forward to our discussion.
Coach, we have a number of things to talk about. We're going to be talking a lot about the Super Bowl, obviously, going to be breaking down that game and making our picks for it. And for the record, we did this last year. We both crushed that pick. But, we're going to get to that in a few minutes. I got some other things I got to pick your brain about because you do know sports well. And I want to get your thoughts on a number of stories that have been coming out in the world of sports. First up, of course, we had some big news last week, and that was the fact that quarterback Tom Brady, I think, is finally hanging it up. He says he's going to retire. Probably he won't come back again, but Brady played 23 years in the league. And what I want to ask you is, what are you going to most remember about Tom Brady? Are you going to remember his, 7 Super Bowls, his competitive fire, or the way that he torched his own marriage in his last season so that he could be single and go golf whenever he wants now without that broad complaining at him all the time? What do you respect most about Tom Brady?
Oh, that's hilarious, Coach. I tell you, all of the above.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons. Yeah, he obviously the greatest of all time, and just the fact that you experienced that level of success and make your career in the NFL last for 23 years. I mean, that alone, him and George Blanda, good old George Blanda,
Yeah.
back in the day. I mean, just the thought of someone being able to do that grind and make it through 23 seasons and be able to walk away from that. And then you combine that with the level of success, the Super Bowls, the runs of conference championships, and just the level of play. I don't think you'll ever see it again. I mean, you're kind of seeing it in the NBA right now from LeBron as he's playing lights out at age 38. But to play in the NFL at age 43 and still be able to do what that man was able to do, great respect. I spent 20 some years hating the guy, just like I hate the Nebraska Cornhuskers. But deep down, like the Cornhuskers and Tom Brady, the highest level of respect and admiration for guys that can do it like he does it.
Well, and I know that at the end, he wasn't the same guy. You could see physically he was starting to wear out and break down. He was still capable, though, of putting together a drive here or there that you're like, oh my goodness, he's still going to break your heart right in the final minute. He still had that right at the very end.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think just like we've seen with the Broncos or any team that you want to look at throughout the course of professional sports history, who you're surrounded by and who you're coached by, I think we finally really realized that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I think he was a victim of probably a team that wasn't as strong as it had been, and for sure some coaching that probably wasn't up to his typical standard, which I think led to his downfall in his play this year, probably more than his physical abilities or mental abilities. I really believe that. So, but I also think it's time. I think it was appropriate. I don't think he's coming back, and I think he made the right decision. And like you said, most likely a year too late. I think he could have salvaged his family if he would have stayed away. But again, who knows what's really going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You bring up a good point as far as the coaching thing, because I know that now there's kind of this narrative that, well, we can see now that Brady made Belichick, not the other way around. I look at it and say they were really, really good together. And you can spin it however you want. They had a ton of success together. I don't know if one happens without the other. I think that was mutually beneficial.
No doubt. I totally believe that too. And, sometimes the stars align, personalities align, abilities align, and magic happens. And that's what makes sports so exciting to watch. And I think that's what happened in Foxborough up in New England is the stars aligned, and you had the perfect combination of systems, personalities, skills, abilities, talent, all come together and mesh, and we saw quite the significant run.
No doubt about it. And what an amazing run that was. The fact that they went to
Yeah.
10 Super Bowls, that is absolutely incredible that he went to that many. I know he dropped a few of them, some tight ones. Yeah, Tom Brady, very, very good, most decorated quarterback in history. No question about that. Coach, we haven't touched base in a little while. Our Denver Broncos, you brought up coaching a little bit. Well, they had a miserable season this year. They won just 5 games. They missed the playoffs for the 7th straight season, despite making that big blockbuster trade for quarterback Russell Wilson. Now, before we get to how they're trying to fix the situation, and they're going out and they're taking some big steps to try to fix this, what would you say went so horribly wrong for Nathaniel Hackett and for that team this year?
I think it goes back to what we touched on just a little bit earlier in our conversation, the importance of leadership. I think people underestimate it, don't realize that, when I go out and look for someone to hire, the first thing I'm going to look for is a track record of success. And I know that previous success probably will indicate future success. And when you roll the dice and you go with somebody that's never been in that position, I really do think, especially at the professional level, you are just asking for huge problems unless you get extremely lucky. And you better do your due diligence and really think through the process to make sure that the man you're selecting to lead your multi-billion-dollar organization is first and foremost, in the 1% of leaders as far as leadership abilities. And Nathaniel Hackett, bless his heart, very nice man. And I'm so sorry he moved his family out here, but the guy had no clue as far as a leadership skill set and how to lead men through the process of building an NFL culture that will be successful. So, that's how I look at it, Coach, is that, you can be Mr. Gung-Ho, Mr. Positive, Mr. Personality, you can light up a room with your charisma, but there's so much more to leadership than just those, observable qualities. There's got to be so much more to you. And I just don't think he had it. And it set the tone for the entire organization. I really believe that.
Yeah, I do too. And when we watched, I go back to that very first game and they're playing
Yes.
Seattle. They have a chance to go down and still win the game, even though they hadn't played well. And you could tell the moment was too big.
Yes.
And you think, well, you're in the NFL. You've been a coordinator. You've been in this, but you haven't been that seat. You haven't sat in that chair. And until you do, I don't know how you mimic that. Like, you have to either do it or you've never done it. And you could see on that night, he had never done it and he had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah. And a light bulb came on for me, unfortunately, that first night in Seattle. And I thought, oh no, we're in trouble because the things that were happening as a high school athletic director, and I'm currently doing that. If my high school head football coach was doing that, I would be on the verge of having to fire him, because not only would I be upset, but the community that I represent would be so upset with his lack of understanding that we would have to consider firing him at that point. And we're talking the NFL. So that was kind of my, we might be in serious doo-doo moment.
Yes, it was mine too. And I think we even texted back and forth and said, oh no, what, what happened? Our hope is right out the window. And
I know.
It was so early, but man, you could just feel it. This guy he didn't know what to do. And you felt bad for him. Like, everybody's mad and everybody's hating him and putting the moving signs in his yard. And I'm sitting there going, this poor dude, he needs a hug. But, last week, the Broncos had gone out and they had sniffed around a number of candidates, a number of coaching prospects to replace Nathaniel Hackett. And I was starting to get the feeling, and I'm sure you were too, that they know what they're doing here, because it seemed like, well, they looked at Jim Harbaugh and then he said no, and they looked at Dan Quinn and then he said, I'm going back to Dallas, and they're looking at this candidate and that candidate. They said a couple candidates we're not even interested in. We're not going to talk to you anymore. And then they went back to former New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton. Coach Sean Payton has a track record, like you spoke of success. He won in New Orleans. And I know when people hear that now, I know the younger generation hears that and goes, well, big deal. New Orleans is, always kind of at least tough. Coach, you and I know better. They were the Aints, and they were horrible. And he brought them out of that and won a Super Bowl. But the Broncos had to trade some draft picks to get this guy. Do you think they made the right move?
100%, Coach. I would trade a first rounder for Sean Payton any day, anytime, any year, just because I believe in leadership and the unknowns of first round draft. Look at some of the decisions we've made based on that pick, and I would have thrown in maybe even a future number one down the road to get him. I'm glad we only had to give up the second rounder, but in my mind, I think I really do believe that you're going to see a fairly quick turnaround. I think some people are going to probably disagree with that, and I can respect that, but I really do believe the turnaround will be fairly quick, and all due to having, again, someone that talk is really cheap, and you can go in and sell yourself in an interview and say all the right things. But when you have like we've talked about, someone that has proved it in an organization where we know, you and I know, that for 30, 40 years almost, that organization was absolutely pathetic. They had nothing to show for 40 years of football. And he came in and automatically they became relevant and played at an extremely high level. So yeah, I'm super stoked, and I think the price given up was worth what we're going to get in return.
I do too. It's interesting. People, like I said, look at the Saints and they're like, oh, they're always pretty tough. Remember, there are two coaches in their history that have a record above 500. Sean Payton's was pretty good. The only other guy that did it was Jim Moore, and his was barely above 500. Yeah. That is a losing franchise, and he won there. And the other thing that I think kind of gets lost, and especially in the younger generation, is they go, well, he had Drew Brees. Coach, you and I remember Drew Brees. He came out of college. He was in San Diego. He got crushed by the Broncos and blew his shoulder out. There were doubts as to whether Drew Brees would ever even play again because of that blown shoulder. He goes down there. He kind of looks around at New Orleans. It was between New Orleans and Miami. He settles on New Orleans. Sean Payton brought his career back, not the other way around. Brees didn't make Payton. Payton made Brees, and people kind of forget that. He might be the guy, if there is a guy, that could revive Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic because I view Drew Brees as kind of the not, I wouldn't say poor man's version of Russell Wilson, but pretty close to that, with size, stature, throwing abilities, background, and so forth. So I really think it's, again, maybe the stars have aligned for us once again after Elway, Peyton Manning. Maybe we're going to get that flash of brilliance, because I think Sean Payton's a perfect coaching fit for Russell Wilson.
Well, and I also have to wonder, he doesn't take this job and just say, well, I've got this anchor around my neck. Like, I'm not going to take that unless he believes I can get this thing turned around. He's not dumb.
Yeah. No, he had too many options. You're right. He had to want this job. Just like, I think we have found out since the hiring that it really wasn't the Broncos pursuing Harbaugh so much. It might have been Harbaugh pursuing the Broncos. Yeah. I think people understand the legacy of the Denver Broncos and the fan base and how actually psycho crazy we are for football. And I think that had to be a factor in his decision. And you're right. If he didn't feel comfortable, even though he's getting 18 to 21 million, whatever, I don't think he would have done it. He could have done a lot of other things.
Yeah. Why come back? I mean,
right.
Stay in the broadcast booth. He's got a cushy job there. So I think he sees something there that he can work with. Coach, a little more local coaching news. And I know this is news that is going to make you excited, but for some reason, beyond my understanding, Deion Sanders agreed to come coach at the University of Colorado in Boulder. Sanders is already creating some excitement up there. He's bringing in a ton of transfers, and he's bringing in a few recruits. Coach, I'm not fully sure what to expect from this. If I had to guess, I would say it's going to be 2 or 3 really interesting years. And then the seas kind of level out and we get back to normal. But maybe that's just me. What are you expecting from Coach Prime? And what do you think he's going to do in Boulder?
That has just been so fascinating to watch play out. And I have some pretty deep ties to Colorado. My father's a graduate of CU, and obviously I sent a couple players to
Yeah.
CU to play hoops. And so, that's a situation that I monitor pretty closely. And I've always kind of been a CU Buffs football fan back when they won their national championship days and a little bit before that even. But uh, you know, at first I was shocked that he actually agreed to come to Colorado. For someone from the South coming into Boulder, Colorado, you would think that is the mismatch of all mismatches.
Yes.
But the more I watch how that guy operates, and I follow it really closely. There's something, beyond magical that's going on there. That what made Dion great as an athlete, what makes him a great personality, is something that you don't teach, and very rarely do you find it. And that's just that willpower of uh, I'm going to succeed. It's not a question of if and when or any of that. It's just I will make this happen. And you believe a guy that operates like that. He sells himself, and he sells the community, and he sells his recruits this vision of national championships. And lo and behold, I'm even starting to believe it. And I'm a cynic guy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you're crazy to think that, but what he's done so far has been pretty amazing. And you're exactly right. In 2 to 3 years, if not sooner, the big boys are going to come calling for him.
Sure.
And what are they going to do to keep him? And what's he going to say? I have a idea that there's some loyalty based on CU giving him the chance to come to the Power Five level
Yeah.
that might help him make that decision. But maybe that's just wishful thinking on my part.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if I know you're not a bettor, but if you're betting and I gave the over under at 2.5 years of him being up there, how are you betting on that?
I'd have to, you'd have to think that someone, Alabama, Florida State, maybe even a professional team is going to come calling and say, hey, what you're doing here is great, but you're getting peanuts for something you
Yeah.
deserve twice as much for. And I think that's going to happen. I really do. I think he's going to be successful, and I think the enticement is going to be too great, and he's going to have to take it, just like Mel Tucker did. You
Sure.
know, and
Yeah.
I don't like Mel Tucker for doing it, but I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing. You'd be
Everyone
crazy
would.
not to. Yeah, you'd be crazy not to. And I think prime time will be presented something similar to that, where even though we're taking good care of them, there's going to be somebody that can say, hey, we can do twice what you're getting here, and let's make it happen.
Yeah, I would agree. The one thing that I love about it though is finally there's a reason to at least pay attention to college football in the state, because
Yes.
we haven't had anything. Air Force every year is the best program, and it's not even
Yeah.
close. At
Right.
least there's some attention. At least there's something going on in the state, because it is a desert for college football lately. So I'm at least excited about that. Coach, I want to move over a little bit before we get over to our Super Bowl preview, talk a little bit of hoops. I know our background is a little bit more basketball, even though we love football. The NBA just passed the halfway point, and it's kind of an odd year. The
Mm-hmm.
West seems a little down from what we've usually had. Denver, Memphis, and Sacramento are the top 3 teams in the West right now. I think maybe Golden State will make a run, but they got some problems. They can't defend. They are inconsistent. I don't know what's going on with Golden State. I keep thinking they're going to make a run, and then they don't. They can't win on the road ever. And the Nuggets, they're a little tougher this year. You've got Bryce Brown. You've got
Mm-hmm.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Jokic is playing out of his mind. Coach of the Denver Nuggets actually going to make a run at this thing?
They are legit. It's kind of like you said, it's kind of a funky year because you have teams like the Warriors, the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, the Clippers that are all very talented, but they just can't seem to be healthy and get their act together all at the same time. And everybody's there and available and playing well. I think some of those issues will be resolved by playoff time. And I think it's going to be a very competitive, wide open situation. But I'll tell you this, I think the Nuggets are legit if they had somebody besides Andre Jordan. Yeah, I think if they had one more piece that was a rim protector, rebounder, a little bit more younger, athletic than DeAndre Jordan, then I really, really would be favorable about the Nuggets and their opportunities to maybe make it to the finals. And maybe they'll address that. You know, Bones Highland is the current guy that's in the doghouse, and you know we've seen that pattern from Malone year after year after year. He has to have the one guy that seems to be the whipping boy that, you know, he takes his frustrations out on. And this year it happens to be Bones Highland. I think if they are smart and can turn him for that other inside presence, they if they stay healthy, they're legit.
That is so crazy to think about, isn't it? Every
Yeah,
year we watch them break our
yeah,
hearts, and we know it's coming. And this year, I
yeah,
don't know. It's starting to feel like they might be the real deal. I can't believe I'm
yeah,
saying that.
yeah. You know, when you look at it, and even Michael Porter's starting to make some plays
Yep.
besides just hitting a spot up jumper. He's starting to block shots, rebound. He's actually getting down in a defensive stance. You've got, you know, Aaron Gordon playing at a very high level. And then if your sixth best player is Bruce Brown,
Right.
that means you are, you know, you are a high level, extremely talented team if he's your sixth best player and he can't even start for you and he's coming off the bench. So yeah, you know, and Jamal had 41 last night and he's starting to look like bubble Jamal.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, and Joker, I mean, I tell people, if you're not trying to catch as many Nuggets games as you can, you're crazy because that guy is a once in a lifetime dude. I mean, what he does is unbelievable. So watch him because it's gonna be here and gone before you know it. So take advantage of it.
Couldn't agree more. And there are so many people that kind of downplay his game and like, oh yeah, I don't know if he's really the MVP. That tells me you're not watching him. Because if
Yes.
you're watching what he does, it is astounding how good he is and how smart, how well he sees the floor. He does things that there are times I seriously look at it and go, did he really just do that? I know he can't run. I know he's not athletic. I get it. His brain is incredible.
Yes. Yeah, you know, I think people that kind of cast, you know, a shadow on what he's doing, you know, either they have never been down on the floor and
Yeah.
witnessed NBA caliber basketball, because when you see the size, strength, athleticism, and they are by far the world's greatest athletes, there's no question about that. And he's making them look silly and he's making this look effortless. I mean, to me, it blows my mind. I really, it's hard for me even to explain because I've seen that happen with some of my NBA caliber guys that were playing at the high school level,
Yeah.
and they did that at the high school level because they're playing against other high school kids who weren't even close
Sure.
in skills and ability. But you're talking about guys that are the same size, same background, same or better athleticism for sure. And he's doing it to them. Again, I think I am just unbelievably amazed and awestruck by what he does. And I'm a basketball guy, you're a basketball guy. So it takes a heck of a lot for me to go to that level of, you know, complimentary remarks. But he's truly amazing.
He really is. And it drives me crazy when you hear people downplay what he's doing because like I said, you're not watching. Coach, one other player right now in the NBA that is playing at an insanely high level, and it's speaking of unbelievable, I kind of can't believe it. LeBron James is going to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for all-time scoring lead in NBA history, like literally any second now. Does this accomplishment change how you view his career at all? Or is it still, I kind of look at him next tier a little bit below Jordan to me, but that's me. it doesn't really change. It just is longevity. And I respect it, but it's just a lot of longevity to me.
Yeah, no, I will make no apologies. I'm a Michael Jordan guy. I really do believe he's the best that's ever played. Um, but LeBron, what he's doing and the fact that he's passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar deserves every last ounce of accolades for his career and what he's accomplished. And, as far as he is the best athlete that's ever played this game,
Yeah.
which is hard to believe that he surpassed some of the people we've seen come up through the NBA, including Jordan.
Yeah.
He's a better, bigger, faster, stronger athlete than I've ever seen play the game. Um, and what he's accomplished is absolutely unbelievable. But you know, um, it it also comes down to who makes their teammates better
Yeah.
and who has the entire package of both playing variables and non-playing variables. And I think that's where Michael Jordan can outdo LeBron James just with some of the on-court, off-court intangibles that Michael and someone like Michael Jordan brings to the court. But LeBron's unbelievable. Yeah, really fantastic.
I have kind of two takeaways on him passing Kareem. And one is, Coach, we don't give nearly enough respect to Kareem in his game,
Yeah,
because
for
holy
sure.
cow, how did he hold that record for this long?
For
And
sure.
and two, I think, and I've said I am not on the team that LeBron is the greatest player ever. I just don't believe it. I will say this: he is the greatest old player ever. I've never seen a
Yeah,
player this old play
yeah.
this well. He's the best old guy I've ever seen play.
That I think that's very fair and very remarkable in just saying that. I would agree 100%. I mean, the guy's playing like he's 25 years old.
Yeah,
And he's been doing this just like Tom Brady, since he's been, 18 basically, he's been in the league. So, to be doing this 20 years, night after night, 82 games, regular season, post, season playoffs and preseason. I mean, for his body to withstand everything and still operate, it does. I mean, that's crazy. Just like you look at Jokic
yeah,
and what he does. I mean, it's crazy to think that LeBron can do it at age 38 like he's doing it.
yeah. And going against the best, and
Yeah.
all the schemes to try to stop him, and he's still dominating. That is absolutely impressive, Coach. I know that you and I like the NBA. We'll watch the NBA, but we kind of love college hoops, and college hoops this year is heating up now. At this point, we're getting close to that tournament is coming really, really fast. And it's kind of funny because some of the teams we expected to dominate this year, they're kind of struggling. North Carolina, Michigan, Gonzaga's taking some lumps. Kansas is taking some lumps. They have really struggled at times. Is this a situation where those kind of teams, they're going to figure it out, they're going to grow up, or is it just that wide open this year?
Great question. I think, and we followed and loved college basketball forever and ever, and we've always loved it because of parity and the
Yeah.
opportunities for the mid level or even low level teams to make a big run. I think because of the transfer portal and what has occurred, we're looking at even more parity than we've ever seen before. And I think there's some high level, Purdue, Houston, types of teams that I think could make a run and win it. But I could also look at maybe 10 to 12, maybe even 14 other teams that also have the ability to make a run. So I could not tell you right now who my favorite is. I think it's so wide open that I always think college play, especially at the college level, your top guard
Yep.
tandems, if they have some decent front line help, are going to be the teams to watch. But who that college team is right now, Dallas, I could not tell you, and I don't think I've ever been this late in the season and not able to identify a team that I think, or maybe three or four teams that I think You know, because you and I have been doing this for years,
Yeah.
and this is the first year where I can honestly say, okay, make sure you watch these teams because I think they're the ones to watch. I'm not sure yet.
No, I'm right there with you. And I'm looking at some teams, like you said. I like Purdue. I like, obviously, the big kid is a monster. Is his surrounding cast good enough? And he's not a one-man team by any means. He's not that guy. He's not, Olajuwon.
Right.
He's a contributor, and he's pretty good, and he's just so big that he causes problems, but he's not a guy that's going to carry that team. So he's got to have a surrounding cast. I like Tennessee a lot. I love the way they play defense. They fly around, they put pressure on you. Alabama can score. And yet, like you said, it seems like we're going to find about 4 or 5 teams that we're going to go, man, they had a lot of seniors. We kind of weren't paying attention, but they came in at tournament time. They've got some guards, and they're going to make a run and get ready because this is going to be a wild March Madness. And I think we're going to see that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you brought up a team that I really like. So if you had to nail me down, that has the combination of athleticism and coaching and pedigree. Hard to believe it, but good old Bama.
Yeah.
I'd watch out for Bama. They are really talented and extremely well coached.
Yes, they are. There's a few teams out there. I'm right there. I was hoping you were going to give me some insight and say, hey, I really like this one, because I'm in the same boat you are going. I like a few teams. I don't love any of them, but I know we're going to have some come out that we're just like, okay, I didn't see this coming, but man, are they good.
Yeah,
I fully
exactly.
expect that. It's going to be a fun March Madness. It always is. It always lives up to the hype, even if other sports don't. March Madness is always phenomenal. You get buzzer beaters, you get upsets. It's going to be fun. And I also have to say, you also know at the end of the day, we talked about this earlier, and we talk about it all the time. Coaching matters. A program like Virginia and Tony Bennett, maybe they're a team that sneaks out and you're going, I didn't see them coming, but man, he's kind of figuring things out. He's getting it rolling. Those veterans that know how to coach, it seems like they always, Tom Izzo just always puts a team together right at the end. So I wouldn't be surprised by that at all either.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And yeah, you mentioned some great coaches and Bennett and Izzo are, you know, the old wily veterans that you don't sleep on those programs just because of how they're led.
Yeah, I do like Houston. You brought up Houston and the depth that they have. It's just going to be a matter of, can they knock down some shots? And sometimes that's what you have to do to advance. All right, Coach, we have got to jump in to Super Bowl 57. We've talked enough nonsense. People want to know who's gonna win this thing. The big game is on Sunday. And Coach, every year the NFL, it's full of upsets, it's full of surprises. The Broncos disappoint us, whatever. But this year, we have what I believe are the top 2 teams in the league. And they're the top 2 teams as far as record, as far as conference, but I actually feel like we have the 2 best. There wasn't a big surprise. Didn't see that coming. I think we have the 2 best teams in the league this year going to Glendale, Arizona for Super Bowl 57. And I believe we could really be looking at a really, really good game. This might be a really competitive game right down to the wire. I know we say that a lot of years. This feels like this year might be a really fun one.
No, it really is a great matchup, and you're right. I do think the 2 best teams are playing for the Super Bowl. I think Cincinnati is a close third.
Yep.
You know, and Buffalo, I thought disappointed. I thought they might make the run this year, but obviously they've got some issues that they need to get corrected if they're going to make the jump. But no, I think it is the 2 best teams, and like you and I had talked about previously, my thoughts on who's going to win changes day by day. Today, as I got up and thought about what we were going to talk about today, I thought Chiefs. That kind of popped in my head that if I had to pick today, I'd go with the Chiefs. And here's the reasons I would go with the Chiefs. Coaches, I think Mahomes is going to be fairly healthy with the break. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. Kelsey is the best tight end playmaker in the NFL.
Yep.
And I believe Andy Reid's probably the best coach in the NFL. And then I take that combined with their strength of schedule compared to what the Eagles played.
True.
And today I would pick the Chiefs, but I also know that the Eagles are more balanced. They have more playmakers. Jalen Hurts is a, unbelievable quarterback that could take off and throw for, 250 and run for another 100 under the right circumstances. But
Sure.
I also think the Chiefs defense is always underrated. I think they're better than people give them credit, and Chris Jones is probably the best defensive player there is right now. So as good as I think Philly is, and I think they're really good. For some reason, in a one-game matchup, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. And I hate to say it, but that's what
Oh,
I'm
I
going
know.
with.
Well, let's drill down just a little bit because you brought up some really good points. I want to take a close look at this a little bit. Let's look at kind of offense versus defense on both sides of the ball. You talked about it. Patrick Mahomes should be healthy. I thought against the
Yeah,
Bengals, you could tell he was limited, and I think that's a big, big difference. But it's not just Mahomes. You
yeah,
got Travis Kelce, you got Juju Smith-Schuster, you got Kadarius
yeah,
Toney and Sky Moore and McCole Hardman, and that Chiefs offensive line is really good. And like you said, we know Andy Reid is one of the best offensive minds in the business. One area of concern I do have for the Chiefs, their running game isn't always consistent. They do a lot of misdirection stuff. They'll do some jet sweep stuff. Isaiah Pacheco is that most productive running back this year. He's solid. He's not great. And on the other side with the Eagles, that defense is stout. They stuff the run lanes. They put pressure on the quarterback. And the interesting part for me with the Eagles, they put pressure on the quarterback from the inside. They don't come off the edge necessarily. They'll come up right up the gut.
yeah,
So that puts that pressure right in your lap. I expect the Chiefs to make some plays offensively. Obviously, Mahomes is going to make some big plays. What I want to watch, one, can the Eagles, make that run game kind of non-existent? But like you talked about, can they stop Travis Kelce? And I don't know if anybody can stop Travis Kelce. They did a good job against George Kittle against the Niners, but this isn't that. This is very,
right.
very different. And
Yeah,
Travis Kelce is such a game changer. If you can't stop him, I think you're in for a long day.
yeah, no, and I like that analysis that you brought up, and I think you might have hit the key too, Coach, is Pacheco. I
Yeah.
think that little guy kind of reminds me of Austin Eckler from the Chargers.
Yeah.
Strong overachiever, huge motor. Uh, and if he can just be good to maybe a little bit above good and have a really productive day, then I think that's going to make a huge difference. And if he can't make any type of moves or plays, uh, then I think Kansas City might be in a little bit of trouble. But if they can generate anything from him, I think they have a good shot at winning.
I do too. On the other side, we have the Eagles offense. You talked about it. Jalen Hurts, he can pass it, he can run it. This team loves to run the ball. You've got Miles Sanders, you've got Hurts will run, but the Eagles have some really good wide receivers too. You've got AJ
Yeah,
Brown, Devontae Smith, and they kind of lull you to sleep. They run, and then they go for that big play down the field. But like you said, that Chiefs defense, they could put pressure on the quarterback too. Chris Jones, honestly, he's unblockable. You
yeah,
can't block the guy. Frank Clark
yeah,
comes up with big plays at key
yeah,
times. That secondary has been vulnerable at times,
yeah,
but if you can generate a pass rush, you can hide that secondary a little bit more. The key here for me is, can the Eagles run the ball? If they can run
yeah,
the ball, you can keep that defense a little bit off balance. If they can't run the ball, then I think this is going to swing hard in the Chiefs area. Can Jalen Hurts be bigger than the moment? And that's a big moment. This is going to be a
yeah.
fun game.
Yeah, no, I like that, and I think you're right. I think most people who are picking the Eagles are assuming, and they might be right, that they're going to be able to run the ball really effectively and take time off the clock.
Yeah.
Which I think if they can, I think then you're probably right. I think the Eagles will find enough plays, and Hurts is just, he's just a freaking winner.
Yeah.
He's just he's so cool, calm, collected, and just a feisty competitor that, he's not gonna get you beat. In fact, he's probably gonna find a way to beat you. And so I think, it's a fascinating game to watch, and it could be extremely high scoring, or it could be, a defensive slugfest. I mean, it could go from a 14-13 type game to 41-38 type game. You're just not sure what's going to happen.
Agreed. And Jalen Hurts, the key for me with him this year, he's not making that big mistake.
Correct.
Now, does that change on the big stage? I don't
Yeah.
know. That's going to be very, very interesting to watch. Can he avoid those big, costly mistakes? Because you can't make those against Kansas City. Mahomes will
Exactly.
capitalize way too quickly. Special teams for me in this game are they're both pretty average. I guess
Yeah.
I'd give the Eagles a little bit of an edge because of Jake Elliott. He's
Yes.
good. He's not great.
Yeah.
Harrison Butker has struggled a little bit at times this year, so maybe I give the Eagles a slight edge. But I want to talk about this one other area, and you brought it up already. Coaching wise, I give the Chiefs a huge advantage. Andy Reid is going against his former team, and you have to know he would love nothing more than to stick it to those crazy Philly fans that booed him all the time. Reid is one of the best. He's been there before. He knows how to prepare a team for this kind of game. Having said that, coach, I keep doubting Nick Sirianni. He kind of seems like a moron to me, but he keeps proving me wrong. He keeps winning. Hey, here's a chance for him. Go make a name for yourself against a really good team and a really good coach in the biggest game of the year. I give the advantage to Reid, but I keep doubting Sirianni and he keeps proving me wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm a big guy when it comes to karma.
Yeah.
And all those energy forces that come together that make weird things happen. I think all those things tend to lean towards Andy Reid
Yeah.
for what he went through, what he did in Philly, and how he was treated at
Sure.
the end of that run. So I that's just, again, that's just me and my superstition and kind of way of thinking that what goes around comes around, and here's that opportunity for things to be balanced out, and Andy Reid's going to find a way to balance this sucker out.
Well, and I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. But coach, we always talked about when we were coaching the basketball gods, the football gods. Are you doing
Yep.
things the right way? Are you doing things the way that you should? Because if you are, it's just amazing how those football gods kind of favor you when you do things how you're supposed to do them. And you just kind of wonder, maybe Andy Reid is going to be the beneficiary of that. One other kind of angle that I would have on this game, I believe Patrick Mahomes needs a Super Bowl win here. I think he's going to be laser focused. I think he's going to be ready to go. But remember, this is his third Super Bowl in 5 years, and he's only won it once. He needs that second win for his resume, doesn't he? I mean, he needs one more win. A dynasty of one doesn't really mean that much. That's the good news. He should be ready to go fully on his game. The bad is if things don't go well, is there pressure? Is there, I got to win this. I got to win this. The Eagles have to be feeling a little like they're playing with house money. I mean, I don't know that many people expected them to be here. Who has kind of the advantage as far as those intangibles for winning this game?
Yeah, and that's where my Bronco bias, I guess, comes into play. I'm hoping what you just mentioned is exactly what happens, is that Mahomes feels like he's got to solidify his legacy and make some bonehead decisions, and the Eagles win, and now they start to doubt themselves and start to make some changes in their organization, and the tide is turned, and the Broncos are back where we rightfully belong, and that's at the top of this division. So
I love
so
it.
I hope you are right. That's my wishful thinking part of it,
Sure.
because that's what I want to see happen. But to see Patrick Mahomes after 4 days, 5 days after a high ankle sprain, where I'm thinking that he's gonna be trash,
Yes.
and he comes out and plays as well as he does. I got to give that guy, kudos. That dude
Yep.
is something amazing. And if he doesn't try and do, foolish things and try and make plays that aren't there, boy, they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, they are. It is a toss up. Even as
Yeah.
we're talking, I'm going back and forth like, okay, I have this team. I might pick this team. I don't know that I've ever been as torn. Usually you and I go into the Super Bowl and we're like, I have a pretty good feeling of how this is going to go. I'm not sure I do this year. I'm
Yeah.
really at a loss. I'm like, they're both very good. Who gets the breaks? who maybe has the ball bounce their way, who turns it over is obviously going to be a huge thing. Turnovers will change the script. That could go from tight game to blowout, or that could go from we think this, this team's going to win, and all of a sudden it flips it. Turnovers will change the game completely.
Yeah, no, I think there's a common theme we've gone through today. When we talked about the NCAA basketball, we talked about the Nuggets, we talked about the Super Bowl. I've got a hunch, I got a feeling.
Yeah.
But by God, don't ask me to put any of my money down on it, because I don't know what to do. Because I'm not going to risk my money on it, because I really don't know.
Isn't it crazy looking back, and you and I are old enough to remember, you'd have guys like the Art Sleesters or the Paul Hornigs, and they were getting in trouble for, that he put a bet, Pete Rose can't get in the Hall of Fame. He put a bet on a game here. Coach, they're all sponsored by the betting companies now. They're literally in bed with betting, and somehow that was all frowned upon. Pete still can't get in the Hall of Fame. That's so funny to me, how much they've just embraced, like, hey, money talks. We don't care anymore. Do whatever you want. Bet all you want. That was not how we grew up.
Oh, my favorite commercial now is the Mannings.
Yes.
And Cooper getting the guess right. And I think that's hilarious. And you're right. Every other commercial on TV is sports betting now, and that is so diametrical different than what you and I grew up with, where it was so frowned upon. And you were going to end like Art Schlichter. You're going to end up in prison.
Yes. Now it's openly embraced.
Yes.
We don't even pretend to care about it. And I don't have a problem. You want to go bet all you want, but it's so completely opposed to what we grew up with. It just is funny to me. I know, old guys, get off our lawn, but it's just completely different than what we grew up with. Okay, Coach, you're going to take the Chiefs. Well, right now, I think you're going to stick with the Chiefs. If you were going to put down a score, you're not going to bet on it. I understand. If you're putting down a score, what do you got? How is this going to go?
I'm going to go 24-21 Chiefs.
Oh, see, I'm right there with you. I have the almost the exact same score. Gosh dang it. I keep going back and forth on this. I've been thinking Chiefs all day. Here's my problem. And you and I talk about this all the time. For all the talk about the quarterbacks and the running backs and the wide receivers and the tight ends, and this game is won in the trenches. And I think both sides are very good in the trenches. I think the Eagles have a little bit of an advantage in the trenches. It's not much, but it's a little bit. I have Eagles 24, Chiefs 20.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to go Philly. And it's a coin flip. I ask me in another 5 minutes and I'll flip it back. So it is very, very tough to pick this game. I think it's going to be fun, but that's the bottom line. I'm hoping for a good game. I don't care. Honestly, whatever. Give me a good game. Give me an entertaining Super Bowl, because obviously as Bronco fans, we didn't have much to be, excited about this year.
All right. I got this documented, Coach. This is for a large pizza. We're going
absolutely.
high stakes.
Absolutely.
At Old Chicago on Arapahoe and Parker.
Okay. We can do that.
I got the Chiefs. You got the Eagles.
Done deal.
Documented. Let's get after it, baby.
All right. Looking forward to a great game. Always enjoy your visits to the Dose. Thanks for breaking down all things sports, and we always appreciate when you stop by.
I had a blast as usual. Hope you're doing well. Tell the family hello, and we'll catch you next time.
Will do. You do the same.